You ready? You ready?
Yeah.
Meeting will come to order, please. Johanna, would you read the statement of compliance?
The notice requirement of the Open Public Meeting Act for this meeting has been met and satisfied. A copy of the annual meeting notice was sent to the Atlantic City Press, the Star Ledger, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, the municipal website, and filed in the office of the municipal clerk. Please turn off electronic devices. Welcome to the City of Margate Regular Commission meeting for July 16th, 2020. This meeting is also being done via teleconferencing in compliance with the Division of Local Government Service Regulations. Before we begin, the procedure for this meeting is as follows. All visitors on the teleconference will be muted until public participation session. Once the public participation session begins, all visitors will be unmuted. The visitors in the audience will speak first, then we will allow for those on call to speak. You will announce your name and wait for the moderator to recognize you before speaking. Each participation session will be 3 minutes in length, and you will be notified at the 10-second mark. When public participation section completes, all visitors will then be muted again.
Thank you, Johanna. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Attention, salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Becker,
Here.
Commissioner Amadeo,
Here?
Commissioner Blumberg.
I am here.
We have before us for approval the minutes of our regular meeting of July 2nd. What is your pleasure?
I'll make a motion we approve those.
I'll second it.
Mayor Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo,
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg.
Yes.
We will now have two brief reports. Fire Chief Adams, are you ready?
I am, Mayor. Thank you. To start off with, I just want to say it's been a whirlwind of events for the last couple of weeks. Our call volume has nearly tripled, and we seem to be seeing a lot more people in town, which therefore increases our call volume. But I'm going to speak about it, a couple tragic events recently, but more importantly, speak about a positive event that occurred on Sunday, July 12th. On Sunday, July 12th at 08:17 hours, the fire department was dispatched to North Essex Avenue for a respiratory emergency. Upon arrival of fire department personnel, they witnessed the patient take an agonal breath and go unconscious. CPR was immediately initiated by Platoon 2 members under the direction of Lieutenant Brad Eisler. They administered 3 defibrillator shocks and 2 more after the arrival of Atlantic Care paramedics. The patient regained a pulse and fire department assisted with ventilation. Patient was transported to Atlantic Care Regional Medical Center in mainland campus, and the next day the patient was sitting up and the ventilation tube was removed. He is scheduled to be released from the hospital today, but the reason this is so important is the quick actions of our fire department responders assisted by our police department saved a life on Sunday. And part of that is because of our quick response time and the quick treatment that we provide, being a career paid fire department. And this is just one of the things, we spoke about this before many times, how important it is to have our fire department and have our police department and have our public works and everybody that we have, because the job that we do day in and day out is second to none. And because our response times are so low, this is how we're able to provide the services that we do. On another side, we had some tragic events recently that we were involved with. One specifically, the drowning of the victim in Ventnor, and the other drowning of the victim off of the Ocean City beach in the inlet. And basically, these were after hours. What I mean by that is after lifeguard hours, when no lifeguards were on duty and there for protection. And they are preventable cases. You need to heed the warnings of the lifeguards when they're there and if they're not there, do not swim. Only swim when lifeguards are present, and just follow the safety tips. One of the big things is how to identify rip currents, and if you get caught in a rip, the most important factor I can tell anyone is not to panic. Let the rip take you out, let it take you to the point where you don't feel it anymore, and then try and swim parallel to the shore. Universal signal for help, raise your arms. The problem is people panic, they get underwater, they take water in, and that's where they start to lose their strength when they're panicking in that. So please, heed the warnings of our lifeguards. Our lifeguards are trained professionals as well. They know what they're doing. Follow their orders and don't swim after hours, especially not during a tropical storm. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. Well done. Mr. Abbott is next.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the public. We have tonight on the agenda a resolution to put forth a question to be voted on in November. I have been working on this draft now for a number of months and taken the input from many of the city officials who've had input. I've had cooperation with our city engineer who's worked on some of the dollar amounts. And of course, this all started when the Margate Boardwalk Committee had requested that we consider, the governing body, consider putting this on the ballot, the question about having a boardwalk. I understand a member of the committee is here tonight. I also understand there are some questions and some concerns about the current wording. And as you know, when we wrote the question. I tried to follow initially their format, and then with the city administrator's input, we got into, really, we need to do a feasibility study to come up with the actual costs. And then our engineer, he's prepared to speak on this. We have an initial estimate that this would be about $30 million plus. But Eddie can further speak on because he's put some effort into this. And I'm sure you have some questions, and I know some members of the public have some questions. So let's have it. Let's discuss this and give me your feelings, and if we want to change this, we can certainly do that. Our deadline is August 14th. So we have one more commission meeting if necessary. I know I've seen the emails, and that's been a question. And we can certainly, if you want to, we could put this off or change the wording or have the committee have some more input on it or do whatever you want. What's your pleasure?
It's your report. I have no question.
Well, that is my report. I have the resolution here, but I thought that some of you, John, do you want to say
Okay.
anything? Or you want Ed to come up with how we came up? We estimated that feasibility costs would be about $285,000, which would include the design, the engineering, the surveying, the title work. The design of the boardwalk would be a biggie, the application work and the environmental concerns to address those. Of course, we're going to have to deal with both the DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers. We have some major hurdles there with the sand dune project and the drainage project that's already in place. The title work, there are some sections of the beach that we don't own, and so we're going to have to explore what it would take to be allowed to build a boardwalk there. The last time we had a boardwalk was 76 years ago, 1944, when it got destroyed. So, and I believe the city administrator was he felt we must go into authorizing, getting some direction on spending about $285,000 for the feasibility studies to then go forward, and if we're going to go forward, for the boardwalk, which at this point is estimated at $30 million. Now, it could be more than that, it could be less than that. A lot depends on the design of the boardwalk. Do we follow Ventnor's? Do we do exactly what Ventnor has? I think that's how Ed came up with that figure of $30 million.
Well, we've been following the email chains. So
Yeah.
everything you just stated, we've been included and commented on, and our professionals have put together the package to where we're at now. So, I mean, there's no discussion on my part.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. Ed, I have one question for you. This is legitimate numbers, I'm assuming. Is that correct?
So the basis of the costs that are in the resolution are pretty straightforward. What we did was we reviewed the cost estimates that were prepared by the Boardwalk Committee for reasonableness with similar public improvements, a boardwalk. And what we found was that those figures, and those estimates were reasonably consistent with other similar projects that have been constructed recently. What we did was we took those estimates, which were construction cost estimates, and we added onto those, which is, consistent with industry standards, a 15% adder for soft costs, which would be design, permitting, those types of soft costs that would go along with the construction of the boardwalk. And then we added on top of that 10% for unanticipated contingencies, which again is consistent with industry standards, especially when you are estimating a project at a budgetary level and we haven't gotten into the details of the design yet. So the $30 million figure that's in the current draft of the resolution is based on one of the three versions that was in the Boardwalk Committee report. It was actually the uniquely Margate Boardwalk, not the Ventnor-style boardwalk, so this was the all-inclusive option. So we used their cost estimate, we added on the 15%, we added on the 10%, and then you arrive at the $30 million figure. And then the only other clarification is the feasibility study that Mr. Abbott referred to includes an engineering component. It does not include the design of the boardwalk, but it does include preliminary design items such as survey, geotechnical investigation. Those are the types of tasks we would want to complete as part of a feasibility study, because the outcome of those tasks could affect the cost one way or the other, or the feasibility one way or the other. So that would be, my comment in addition to what Mr.
Not to
Abbott
mention possible litigation with owners of riparian rights.
Well, we didn't touch the litigation. That would be,
Okay. We're-
that's something over.
Thank
and
you,
above.
Ed. Okay. Scott, you have anything else?
No, I do not, Mayor.
Anything else on your report?
No.
Okay. Then let us move forward. At this point, we will open for public comment. 3 minutes on,
Anybody? Did they give you a list?
pardon me?
Did they give you a list? from
Yes.
the audience?
Yeah, I have a list.
Okay.
I have a list of the people that are here who will speak first. Okay, we'll open for public comment, and first name is Stephanie Block. You have 3 minutes. You may speak on anything, Mrs. Block.
Okay, it's Stephanie Zucker Block, 4 North Brunswick Avenue. I'm a member of the Boardwalk Committee, and I would like to present this report that I'd like to read into the record to the commission regarding the referendum question to be put on the ballot on November 3rd. In the high-stakes world of corporate finance, we refer to the proposed language you have given us dated July 14th, 2020, for a referendum on the boardwalk as a, quote, poison pill, end quote, a choice so distasteful it will be immediately rejected by the voters. If you are truly committed to an open and unbiased examination of this referendum, you would not, number one, propose a study to determine the cost of a boardwalk and then name a price for that same boardwalk before conducting that study. This is a blatant contradiction. If you already know the cost of the boardwalk, then you don't need a study. If you need a study, then you certainly don't know the cost of the boardwalk. You can't have it both ways. If you were truly committed to an open and unbiased examination of this referendum question, you would not, number two, give a $30 million figure for the cost of the boardwalk without any basis in fact. The most expensive version of the boardwalk, and there were many possible versions for many different prices that the Boardwalk Committee proposed on the basis of estimates provided by qualified vendors, was the most expensive one was $24 million. And there was a great deal of agreement on this high-end price from different sources and using different members of calculation. What is the excess of $6 million for? If you were truly committed to an open and unbiased examination of this referendum question, you would not, number three, give a cost figure for a boardwalk without any description of what that money will buy. What kind of boardwalk are you proposing exactly? The Margate Boardwalk Committee suggested 4 different versions, ranging from $14 million to $24 million. Would anyone ever buy something without knowing what it is? This is not a legitimate question to put to the voters at this time. If you were truly committed to an open and unbiased examination of the referendum, you would not use the phrase "in excess of" in front of every cost figure in order to induce fear of runaway expenses. If you know how to manage construction contracts, and we elected you to operate an administration that can do so, then you should be capable of managing to very precise budget limitations. And number 5, you wouldn't insert the line, quote, "These initial costs," I have a couple seconds more, please.
Thank you, Mrs.
"These initial costs do not include any potential litigation costs," which is another rhetorical trick designed to create fear of a known and controllable cost. This is a non-binding referendum. The purpose of this referendum was to determine the interests of the voters of Margate in a boardwalk. It's not a decision to build a boardwalk. That decision is to be made by you, the commission, our elected officials, with input from the voters after a feasibility study has been conducted. So why are the commissioners insisting on that referendum includes the price for
Mrs.
the
Black,
boardwalk?
I have to ask you, thank you very much. Your time is up, and
Well, I'd like to present this to you.
certainly,
Copy of this letter, which was written by Greg Lichtenstein, who is the chairman of the Boardwalk Committee Campaign Committee.
we have it. Good.
I'll email it to you.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Mrs. Black. Mr. Weintraub, please.
Jay Weintraub, excuse me, 10 North Franklin Avenue in Margate. I'd like to address the consent order 140-220. Is this the proper time for that?
Yeah.
I have some concerns with that. Being newly in the financial industry, I started 44 years and 16 days ago. And during that time, we have built up a substantial national practice. Part of our practice, and a substantial portion, is in retirement planning. There's a lot of work that goes into retirement planning. And I bring up the question first, well, I know Dan Campbell, his son lives next door to me, and I don't know him throwing stones at me, you know, when I speak, after I speak today. But I have a concern that a former commissioner is now having the opportunity to run this retirement plan. My further questions are, who are the fiduciaries of the plan and the trustees? I think before we could even entertain this consent, there's a lot of information that has to be gotten. A fiduciary is responsible to also run what's called an investment committee meeting, and those meetings should be held no less than twice a year, bigger plans every 3 months. And during that time, the fiduciaries and the trustees have to entertain and look at the fees, the expenses, so on and so forth, of the plan, the underlying investments, their expense ratios, their returns versus peers. I noticed that Mass Mutual was listed as the vendor, or what's called the record keeper in our industry. Great company. Yet none of their business ever falls in our books, because consistently they've been overpriced as compared to all the other big vendors like Nationwide, Empower, just to name a couple, John Hancock. The other thing we have to be aware of are what the underlying fees are that the advisor is charging. On a small plan, it should be no more than 25 basis points, or to the layman, 0.25%, or typically less. And I would say for your plan, a good advisor may be working off what's called 12B1 fees, if they're still allowed in the Mass Mutual plan, which could be 15 basis points, but you should be about 10 basis points on your fees. So my question is, before you even entertain this vote, okay, are there minutes, are there records of the investment committee meetings? Who were the fiduciaries, the trustees of the plan? Were other vendors reviewed? Every 3 years, it's mandated by the DOL that your plan must be shopped, and independently shopped, with other vendors looking at it. Looking at the fees, the expenses, compensation, so on and so forth. The variety of the funds. Is it well diversified that can benefit the employees well? A plan with 9 investment options may not be the best choice. So what I would ask the board to do is put this vote off until this can be reviewed by the public, and then we can move forward.
Thank you. Any comments at this point? Johanna?
I think you have a misunderstanding, Mr. Weintraub, of that program. It is for the employees. It is a program where they have the option to invest their money. It is not matched money by the municipality. It is a choice that we have as employees to invest money. It is not just one program. There are choices of many different types of stock. So as for Dan Campbell being in charge of it, he had done it prior to being a commissioner. Then we had another person take over when he was commissioner. But at this point in time, Dan Campbell's only position is if we as employees who are invested in Mass Mutual decide that we want some advice from him.
May I ask another question?
Go ahead.
Were there at least 3 other vendors that were asked to bid on this?
That
and
is
give their
not
suggestions?
necessary, Mr. Weintraub, because there is no commission involved.
But you're a fiduciary, there is. By the Department of Labor, it's mandatory.
Thank you. At this point, we'll go to public comment for if anyone who called in would like to speak.
22 West Drive, Sewell.
What was that name again, please?
Sewell, 2025.
Please go ahead, Mr. Sewell.
Sewell, 22 West Drive.
Tell them to go.
Please go, Mr. Sewell.
You're garbled.
So are you.
It's not the first time you told me that either, Mr. Sewell.
Can you please repeat what you're saying?
John, we can hear you. Just start talking.
All right, Sewell, 22 West Drive. Mayor, today is your lucky day. Thanks to an acute case of Joe Bidenitis, you get a free pass on the Wayback Machine. However, we're the youngins, the youths, Giovanni and Moishi, can't plead cognitive impairment. But by being around you far too long, they too zone out. And so it was on June 18th, when the CFO was rattling off a slew of facts and figures. I fully expected the youngins to at least raise an eyebrow when the CFO spoke out against a property tax extension for August, which would be only 3 weeks past the grace period. Some might say the CFO's remarks were glib and blasé. Others might find them callous and indifferent. So, Mayor, you aren't the only one with a reality disconnect. Perhaps Giovanni and Moishi are also mathematically challenged. But as per the CFO stats, more than 1 in 25 property taxpayers will be financially unable to make their tax payments on time. And Mayor, what are the consequences? Mayor, we have more people unemployed now than during the Great Depression. Foreclosures loom large. And what do you 3 banditos do? Why, of course, Mayor, you whack these with an interest penalty 72 times greater than the prime rate. It's absolutely egregious and unconscionable. It's out and out usury, legalized larceny, and extortion. And if you 3 banditos had a scintilla of common decency, you'd immediately insist on both the extension and a sharp reduction in late payment interest penalties. Keeping in mind, Freddie Mac just announced its lowest mortgage interest rate ever, 3.03% per annum. Mayor, it's time for you 3 banditos to stop gouging property taxpayers out of work and down on their luck. real fiscal leadership would implement these two modest changes without a second thought or hesitation. Sending out bogus tax bills that are little more than a guesstimate is an outright farce. Mayor, if you were even slightly engaged, you'd be able to realize Mother Murphy and his nanny state are driving the economy straight.
I won't say thank you, but is there anyone else that would like to comment?
Yes, Henry Gornstein.
Please go ahead, Mr. Bruce. Your name and address.
First, I'd like to thank all of you for making it possible for the public to participate electronically today. It's greatly appreciated. At the July 2nd Commissioners meeting, I asked the three of you gentlemen if you would kindly listen to the September 18th or September 20th, 2018 Margate Commissioners audio. 2 weeks ago, you basically agreed to do this. I was just wondering if anybody had a chance to listen to that audio yet.
I have not.
I
Could
didn't
anybody
need, I didn't
let me
need
know
to
if it's
because
going to be,
I knew what
would you
I
have a
said.
chance in the next week or month, or is it the next year to be able to do that?
What's the point you're trying to bring?
Well, 2 weeks ago, you three agreed to listen to that audio so you could refresh your memory, so at least you know, are on the same page and understand what went down at that meeting.
Are you referring to the planning board meeting or the commission meeting?
No, I'm referring to the September 20th, 2018 Commissioners meeting.
Yeah, we're
When
all
the
well
high-rise
aware of
overlay
what went
was
down at that
discussed.
meeting. We don't have to refresh our minds.
Yeah, but 2 weeks ago, you agreed that you would re-listen to that audio.
I didn't agree. I said I know what I said at that meeting.
Your point
Okay.
is what, Mr. Gornstein?
Well, Mr. Blumberg said he absolutely would, and he said he felt he was speaking for all three of you, but you can listen, you might have to listen to the tape from 2 weeks ago, refresh your memory from 2 weeks ago.
Mr.
Just give
Gornstein,
us your point of order.
I just want to make sure you people know what you're talking about, because it seems like everybody's throwing around a hot potato, because the next thing I was going to ask you is if you would please kindly listen to the June 25th, 2020 Planning Board meeting, specifically at the 3-hour and 43-minute mark of what was said.
Mr. Gornstein, I have to interrupt for 1 second. You have 3 minutes to speak. You have a minute left, so get to your point and tell us what you want us to know, please.
I was present at that meeting in this room for the 3 hours and 20-some minutes, whatever it was, and watched.
Well, it was mentioned at that meeting by someone that
Thanks.
that the commissioners will be forwarding an ordinance to the planning board for a high-rise overlay at 120 feet in height versus 220, whatever it was back in 2018. I mean, to make it very simple, if you would just agree to listen to the audio, you can hear verbatim what you guys said. Also verbatim was what was said at the planning board meeting June 25th. That's the simplest and easiest way to eliminate all these rumors and false statements by people all over the place. It's very clear, it's on audio. If you listen to the two tapes, everybody's on the same page. I'm not asking for much, at least I don't think I am.
Mr. Gornstein, your 3 minutes are up.
Mr. Gornstein, may I have your address, please?
9100 Beach, Margate.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else, please, on the telephone? Let's wait a second. Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.
We'll now open public comment on resolutions on the agenda. Is there any public comment on those items? Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.
Johanna?
May I have a motion for the introduction of ordinance number 9, 2020, an ordinance providing for the vacation of a portion of Amherst Avenue.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.
May I have a motion for resolution number 134, 2020?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.
May I have a motion for resolution number 135, 2020?
I would like, Mayor,
Please, John.
to read into the record Resolution Number 135, 2020, regarding City of Margate, the City of Margate City, construction of a new boardwalk for voter approval on the November 3rd, 2020 general election ballot. Whereas the City of Margate Board of Commissioners desires to ascertain the sentiment of the voters of the City of Margate City with regard to the construction of a new non-commercial boardwalk on its public beach extending from the existing boardwalk at Fredericksburg Avenue in Ventnor City on the border with Ventnor to Coolidge Avenue in Margate on the border with Longport. Whereas the intent of this ballot question is for the voters of Margate to express their sentiment and give direction to the Board of Commissioners regarding the construction of a new boardwalk, and whereas this ballot question and the determination by the voters shall be advisory in nature and non-binding on the Board of Commissioners. Now therefore it be resolved that the City of Margate Board of Commissioners hereby request that the Atlantic County Clerk place the following question on the November 3rd, 2020 general election ballot. Shall the City of Margate expend monies estimated to be in excess of $285,000 to conduct a study so as to determine the feasibility and cost of building a non-commercial boardwalk upon Margate's public beach, extending from and connecting to the end of the existing boardwalk at Fredericksburg Avenue in Ventnor on the border with Ventnor to Coolidge Avenue in Margate City on the border with Longport. Be it further resolved that the following interpretive statement concerning the above question be placed on the November 3rd, 2020 general election ballot for the City of Margate City. This question, if approved by the voters, will give direction to the Margate City Board of Commissioners on whether to expend monies on a study to determine the feasibility of constructing a boardwalk estimated to cost in excess of $25 million. Money spent would include title investigation, design, engineering, permitting of a boardwalk structure. These initial costs do not include any potential litigation. This resolution shall take effect immediately upon adoption and shall be transmitted forthwith to the Atlantic County Clerk Office. I also, Mayor, if I may, the correspondence our city solicitor throughout this process has had with the president of the Boardwalk Committee, Mr. Lichtenstein, and he put his verbal conversations with Mr. Abbott in writing to yourself, myself, and Commissioner Blumberg, and also included our business administrator and our clerk in these communications. I would like to read that into the record also.
Please do.
Respectfully. I would like to respectfully repeat formally in writing the request I made to Scott Abbott this morning on the phone to delay the reading of the referendum into the record until the Commissioners' meeting on Thursday, August 6th. Given that this is a resolution and therefore only needs to be read into the record once, the city has until August 14th to get the referendum language to the Election Commission. We believe our request is a reasonable one. The additional time will give our group a few days to respond to the draft that you sent to us yesterday afternoon, Tuesday, July 14th, and your request for comments. Since we are a group of volunteers with full-time jobs, it is not fair to expect us to come back with substantive comments in less than 48 hours before a commission meeting on Thursday, July 16th. I will commit to you this, that we will get our comments to you no later than Tuesday, July 21st, and quite possibly before then. That will leave us with plenty of time before the next commissioners' meeting, and it will enable us both to have a calm dialogue about whatever differences might exist in our respective positions. We thank you for entertaining this request, and I look forward to hearing your response. Sincerely, Greg Lichtenstein.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mayor, if I may,
You may.
I would like to suggest that we table this resolution per Mr. Lichtenstein's request, given the fact that they would like more time. I would like for us to be able to entertain any suggestions and or comments that they have that they'll make, so that we can have a dialogue and come to some type of agreeable language moving forward.
I'll second that.
Okay, and that, their comments are due, what was it? the
21st.
Is that agreed?
Good by me.
Okay.
Okay, the motion is to table resolution number 135, 2020. The motion was made by Commissioner Blumberg, second by Commissioner Amadeo. Mayor Becker?
Yes,
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.
please continue, Joanna.
May I have a motion for the consent agenda, which consists of resolution number 136, 2020 through 143, 2020?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes,
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.
thank you, Joanna. Commissioner, do you have anything?
I do not.
John? you have-
You know, yes, Mayor, I have a couple of things I want to say. First off, you know, this is our season. We're a short town. We have a lot of people in town, and I hope everybody's respectful and nice and follows the rules of the road. We receive many complaints about speeding, running traffic signs, and red lights. So we all have to be self-responsible and follow the rules of the road. This way we can keep everybody safe in our town. The other big thing I want to talk about is the job our beach patrol is doing through the course of this past mini tropical storm, which was pretty severe, with pretty severe water conditions. There were a lot of rescues in Margate. Our professionals, as our chief has said, under his leadership and the leadership of our chief, Greg Smallwood, have done an outstanding job with our professional lifeguards, along with all the lifeguards that train underneath our professional lifeguards. A lot of rescues have happened, and people have to be aware the ocean is a dangerous place, and we've seen in the past 3 weeks several rescues, some very much life-threatening and some were fatal. So with that in mind, we are, you know, in the season for lifeguard competitions also. Today, we collectively made the decision to cancel the Margate Memorials due to the fact that the South Jersey Chiefs Association yesterday had a meeting in which they canceled the South Jersey competitions. So the one thing we enjoy every summer the most, we're not going to be able to enjoy this year, which I think was an important decision to make based on the crowds that do gather for that competition on the beach. This year was the 35th anniversary of the Margate Memorial, so it's a sad thing not to have that competition based on the fact that this is an anniversary year, and only one other year it was canceled during World War II itself. So with that said, great job to our police department, our fire department, and always to our public works guys and our entire staff all through this COVID thing, providing what they provide best to all the residents and visitors here in the city of Margate. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any, if there's nothing else, is there a motion for adjournment, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Mayor Becker?
yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.
Thank you all for being here.